Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Sorry, I have no voice. I'm at South
I
by. It went away.
I can hear that. It's kind of cool though. It's always cool when your voice goes like it sounds you're like a different person for a couple days. It's
Yeah,
always
I
fun.
am infinitely more interesting now. But you know what? Using that with a movie like this, where all, like so many actors are kind of playing different roles, how was it working with your cast to figure out how each of those characters were going to be different from one another?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, really, I wish I had a better answer than I just cast really talented actors. You know, that was I didn't do okay. Well, okay. What is my contribution to that aspect of them being able to transform? It was important to me to be able to kind of like in terms of world building to be able to modulate when you can tell it's somebody else and when you can't. And because I wanted to play with that sort of sense of deja vu and try to put the audience in the character of Paul's point of view and sort of have that feeling of like, have I seen them before? Was she the desk clerk or I was trying to have actors play for the most part, the troupe actors play like one or two kind of main supporting character roles, and then like a couple like super background, like you might not even notice, like you might just see them in the background. So it was kind of balancing that, and then also work with Laura Scolari and Susie, my costume designer, to sort of like, and Laura did the wigs and our makeup artist to kind of like think how best to transform them, give them very different hairstyles and makeup approaches and things like that.
You had called them a troupe, and that made me really happy because it does feel very theatery when you're watching.
Yeah.
And like when you are doing something that is kind of trippy in a lot of ways because this character doesn't know what's going on. So we inherently don't know what's going on. What for you was the like, did you fall back on theater aspects? Like, what was the thing you kind of returned to ground the more absurd moments of the actor?
Yeah. Well, so for me, there's like kind of the craft elements of the process and the world building, which do kind of lend themselves to being a little trippy, as you say, or theatrical, or you can see. I always like to describe it as you can kind of see the fingerprints of the artists that sort of fabricated this world, and that's something that I've always loved about films growing up. Um, I've used this example a lot, but it's like when you're watching The Wizard of Oz and they're going down the yellow brick road and you see them like approaching a wall, because it's just a matte painting. And you kind of know that as you're watching it, but it's part of the storytelling process. And I really liked that. And it seemed to blend itself to the themes of the narrative and this sort of constructed world and this constructed reality. But in terms of grounding it, to me, what grounds it was is the troupe, are the actors, because that only works um if you have this sort of authentic emotional core or this emotional experience really led by André Holland, who was, my rock and my partner in making this film, because I knew that no matter what I did with the camera or the sets or the environments or the lighting or the music or whatever else, that he would make it feel real on an emotional level. And as long, even if you don't know what's going on, as long as you have somebody to root for, you're invested. At least that was my uh, hypothesis.
I agree completely. But I was also going to ask you, this is your first solo directorial debut. It's your directorial debut, solo person. But you also co-wrote the movie. So
Uh-huh.
how does having the freedom of it being something you also had a hand in writing help you when you're directing?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. Well, you're sort of you're it's all rooted in storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it starts with um typically when you're directing material that somebody else has written, you're sort of it works best when you read it and it feels like it's something you just understand on some level, like you just connect to it emotionally and you understand it. I was going to say it feels like something you've written yourself, but that's too audacious because I can't write like Charlie Kaufman, like so I can't write as good as him, but like when he says things that he makes observations about the human experience, I'm like, that's my experience. I understand that. So then you can embody it and then you're able to visualize it. And when you're writing it yourself, you have a more sort of, in theory, a more direct through line to that because you're sort of feeling it and then you're trying to put it into words, which is difficult. But then when you're visualizing it, it can come very naturally because it originated from that place that you need to get to in order to be able to tell a story. I feel like that's not a very practical way to answer that question, but I don't know how else to describe it.
You nailed it. When you mentioned Andre, and this
Yeah.
movie really is kind of on his shoulders. How was it like building that working relationship with each other?
I mean, Andre and I feel, I don't know how he feels about it, but I felt like kind of a soul connection, like right off the bat, um, and there was just this kind of like, when he came on board, something just clicked. And I guess it's that thing that happens, not to get too cheesy or metaphysical, but it's sort of that thing that happens like when an artist like finds a muse. It's he started, just him, just being him, started to infuse everything I was visualizing and everything I was feeling and everything I was thinking. And as we worked together, it was this very natural, organic thing that happened where I could talk to him very easily and he was very open and he's a very generous artist. He gives very much of himself at anything I asked for. And he would also communicate back to me and about how he was feeling about things and we would adjust. And so it was this very we ended up in this place of flow together, where we could inform each other that felt just very natural and organic and it like wasn't forced. It just happened.
A movie like this, what are you most excited for now that everyone is talking about it and you get to engage with people and their own thoughts on what the actor is?
I mean, it's so exciting to have people, experience this thing and then relate to you what that experience was or what their thoughts are, or if something you've created can on any level make people, it's a scary thing to release, to make something and then release it to the world and be like, judge it. That's very hard because especially in today's world, there's like people are going to hate it, people are going to not like, but it's really like somebody that had an experience, some sort of unique experience when they watched the film and it made them think something or feel something on any level. And then you get to hear them talk about that is very just rewarding and exciting as an artist, because it's really, especially, all art, but especially the medium of filmmaking and storytelling, it's an interaction, right? So it's like one-sided or it's just amongst the artists until you release it into the world, and then it's an interaction between the audience and the filmmakers. And I'm nervous about that, but I'm excited about it too.
See what everyone says. Thank you so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Have
great.
some tea.
I got my throat coat. Not to be an
Okay,
actor,
cool.
but I got my throat.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. All right.